I think this worries most people. You're on a flight, you're nice and calm, you're starting to relax, you may be in the, your last part of the climb or in the cruise, getting all settled, and all of a sudden there's that rumble from nowhere and then it disappears. And the panic sets in. Is it going to come back? And then it comes back and the rumble stays. You've got turbulence. Seatbelt signs quickly come on and everyone's starting to clink their belts and tighten them up. There's a couple of gasps in the cabin and people are worrying whether it's going to really come on, and your worst nightmare is going to be there, that the cabin starts shaking, the oxygen masks come down. That's what we've trained our brains to do when we've watched TV shows, when we've watched movies, and it's not the reality. I'm here to tell you that. If turbulence is one of your fears, if it just makes you a little bit anxious or a little bit worried, all the way up to the fact that you're terrified or even you won't even get on the plane, then this is the right video for you. I'm going to cover turbulence in full, and by the end of it you're going to understand what it is, what causes it, where it might happen, why it might happen, and that you are safe, and not to take seriously any of the media sensationalist headlines of dropping 4,000 feet. By the end of this video, you'll feel a lot more comfortable and secure in turbulence. Now, it's a complex topic. I'm going to make it very simple because that's how my brain works. It works by lists. It breaks up complex subjects and it makes them really, really simple. That's how my brain works. And I think it's probably how your brain works, and that you'll understand it. So it's not going to be daunting. It's not going to be going into aerodynamics. You're going to understand it by the end of it. This video, the first one, I've decided to make a series of them because it's too big. This first one is going to cover what it is, understand it, and not be scared by it anymore. And then probably another 3 or 4 will cover takeoff and climb, the cruise, and then the descent, and then maybe another one thrown in where I talk about coping methods and what you can do to cope a bit more with it if the anxiety does creep in, how to calm yourself back down and gain back control. So what gives me the authority to talk about this? Well, as you can probably see from the costume, I'm an airline captain. I've been a pilot for 25 years. I've been in the aviation industry for 30 years now. 5 of it, I was a jet engineer. And then the last 25 years, I've been flying 11 different aircraft types through the military, everything from fast jets to huge transport aircraft. And then commercially, I've flown 3 different Airbuses, so A330, the A340, and now I'm a captain on the A350, one of the biggest ones in the world. Fantastic aeroplane. I'm also a fear of flying coach. I've been doing that I've always helped people with being a little bit scared or uncomfortable with flying, and I've been doing it sort of professionally for say the last 4 years or so, and helped thousands of nervous flyers, and I know for a fact that I can help you. So yeah, stick with the video. And what is the problem? Why are people scared? I think it's because we miss a big gap in the aviation industry. We're great at selling the package of going on holiday. The airport's fantastic with all the retail shops and the restaurants and bars. It's a great social space. And then obviously all the adverts and all the sales go towards getting you on the holiday to that fantastic resort, seeing the world, the amazing experiences, turning up to that business meeting overseas, or seeing friends and family that you haven't seen. We do that bit amazingly. I think the bit that I'd like to improve personally, and what my drive is to get you comfortable on the aeroplane. So when you get shown that safety card at the beginning, it doesn't set panic. When you feel a bit of a rumble, you don't have panic and you understand what's going on. And that's my purpose. And that's why I've started these YouTube videos. And I think I've got the experience to do it. I've, as I say, flown for 30 years. I've ran airline command centres, so I know all different parts about the airline. I've run a UAV company with drones. I've worked with the Civil Aviation Authority, so I know that side, a little bit of that side of things. I've been an engineer, obviously military and commercial. So yeah, pretty much a good 3 decades of experience to try and pass on to you, make it as simple as possible so you understand flying and you end up loving it as much as I do. And I think the biggest aim of this video is for your next flight to feel better. It'll feel different and you'll feel more comfortable and secure. And even if you're just a regular flyer, you'll understand what's going on, and that's going to help everyone as well. So as I promised, I'm not going to go into the real deep details of aerodynamics, but I think to understand turbulence, you do need to know a little bit what lift is. So let's jump into that, and I'm going to make it really, really simple. First bit of magic is the iPad coming in from the side. And I think a picture paints 1,000 words. So if we start off with, this is the side view of a wing. So there's the aircraft. You got the wings out to the side. There's the tail. Amazing artist, I know. Imagine being stood to the side of it and you cut the wing and you're looking down the wing. That's the aerofoil. That's what creates the lift. So the engines push the aerofoil forward really quickly through the air. And what you want to do is you want to get the wing to fly, obviously. So you want to get lift. So lift is up. And then obviously the engines push the wing forward, which is thrust. We're not that interested in that. That's just the speed of the aeroplane. As long as it's got speed, it's got the air going over the wing, and we create lift. So how do we create lift? This is when it could get boring, but no, we're going to switch it to something that we all can relate to. So you're either going home and you're racing your partner maybe in 2 cars, or you're going to the pub. So let's make this one the pub. And there's the 2 of you here. And there's one road that leads to the pub with a little bit of a bend in it. And then there's another route, which is sort of a fork off a road. That maybe the road continues up there. And number 1 says, I think it's quicker just to go straight to the pub. And number 2 says, no, these 2 routes are exactly the same. Right, let's have a little bit of a race then. So what they do is they set off at the same speed. And number 1 heads along the bottom to the pub thinking, I'm definitely going to beat him. It's shorter. And number 2 continues off saying, I don't think there's going to be any difference, so I'm just going to walk normally. By the time they get up here, they're like, oh God, it's further than I thought. So what do? You put a little, increase your pace, and then you might end up doing a little bit of a jog, and then you'll run and then stop and walk as if you haven't ran at all, and you'll both meet up at exactly the same point, and that's when you'll be like, see, told you it was the same distance. So yeah, we can all sort of relate to that. Why do I talk about that? Well, when you're pushing a wing through air at 500 miles an hour, that's exactly what happens. So imagine you're in a crowded shopping centre and you want to get to the sale shop at the end of the road. So you start pushing people out of the way. They separate right and left. You go through quickly and they meet up straight behind you, don't they? They'll start talking again. That's what has to happen with air molecules. So we're not getting too much deep into it. But the air molecules, they'll start at the front and some will go over the top and some will go underneath. And they have to meet at the back. And the only way they can do that, because of this curved surface, so our curved road to the pub, is for the top air molecules to go much faster. So when they go much faster, they space out, and when you space them out, the pressure drops. So you get a real low pressure on top of the wing, and underneath it's relatively high. This high pressure pushes against the underneath of the wing a little bit. That's not too much lift. But on the top surface, this can become huge, especially, 160 miles an hour when you've got, tens and tens, hundreds of square meters of wing all perfectly working aerodynamically to create this lift, this low pressure. And it's a huge amount of lift on top of the wing. That lifts the wing up, and that's how we go flying. As long as you've got engines pushing the wing forward, you get lift. Now, how does that connect to turbulence? Let me quickly explain. So you've got your wing, exaggerated, and you've got normal air coming here. That will create, say, 100 units of lift, which is what you need to be in the cruise, nice and smooth, drinking your gin and tonic. When it's windy or the wind changes direction or speed, like it changes down here, doesn't it? We get gusts. The wind will come from the right, then it'll spin and come from the left on a really windy day. So what happens is up there, it's 50, 100, 150 miles an hour this wind can be, and it can change direction really quickly. So what happens is if you then suddenly change direction of the wind for an instantaneous, just for a split second, and it comes from here, you've effectively got further to run to the pub around that top surface. So what will happen is you'll drop the pressure even more, so you get 102 units of lift, which wants to make the wing go up. All of a sudden, that wind changes, and it now instantaneously comes at this angle, and that might drop that to 97 units of lift. So now the wing, it's a much smaller amount of lift. And what it does is it makes the wing lift up and down, and it's flying all the time. It's creating lift all the time. It might just drop to 97 units of lift, 102 units of lift. And that effectively is what turbulence is. It moves the wing up and down. The wing moves up and down. The cabin shakes up and down. The more drastic those changes in direction and speed of the wind that it hits at 500 miles an hour. So from a jet turbine, the jet wake from an aircraft in front, that would be really choppy. Off from clear air turbulence, that's really choppy. That's what creates the turbulence. So just get rid of that. Wrong one. So we just so that is basically what creates the turbulence. So you never drop. That's why I hope you understand now. Just from that little bit, you don't drop. You're always flying. It may feel like you're dropping. We'll get into that in a little while. But it's definitely uncomfortable. I can't take that away. But the seatbelt keeps you safe when you're in your seat. And you're not in any danger as long as you're in your seat with a seatbelt fastened. Then the aircraft is absolutely fine. Built for it. Built for 5 to 10 times more than you'll ever experience. So don't worry about the aircraft either. Okay, so we've covered that it isn't dangerous, but it is uncomfortable, and you've paid good money as a customer to get on the airplane, and we want to give you the best service possible. So we want to give you the smoothest ride possible. So how do the pilots avoid turbulence and know where it is? We've got a whole host of different forecasts and information at our disposal, which is amazing. And for instance, I can quickly show you this one. So here we are. Here's the UK flying down to Dubai. And as you can see, there's a big band of turbulence to the south of our route. These black triangles are the route. There's a big band. So they've routed us to the north of that to keep us out of the turbulence. However, at some point, we have to cross this area here, where there's some turbulence. So when we're in the air, we will talk to other air traffic control. We'll talk to other pilots, and we'll work out maybe 36,000 feet smooth, whereas 38 is this band. So we'll descend 2,000 feet if air traffic allow us, and we'll go through it, and we'll go through nice and smooth. If we can't avoid it, then that's when we'll put the seatbelt signs on, and it'll only be for a few minutes, or maybe it's 20 minutes, but it'll be a bit uncomfortable, but it's perfectly safe, and you're safe if you're in your seat. So sometimes you can't get through it, but there's a whole host of different ways for us to look at forecasts, speak to air traffic and other aircraft. What about turbulence apps that you get pushed, and as a nervous flyer, my top tip is to say, I don't think they're a good idea. If you're nervous, if you want them for information, then by all means have a look at them. However, I don't even look at turbulence until about, I don't know, maybe a couple of hours before the flight, because it changes. The forecasts change, the weather changes, the flight planning might change our route completely, like you've just seen there to the north of our route. So yesterday's flight, which is what they normally go by, or older forecasts, that will say that you're in turbulence when actually the route's totally changed. Air traffic control might send you off a different runway, so you go a totally different direction. We'll speak to other pilots and air traffic control and change our flight level. Sometimes air traffic control will route you 30 miles around an area of turbulence if they can, so you won't even go through it. So you're just going to worry yourself before your holiday or your flight for no reason, and it's wasted energy. Spend it on looking at which beach you're going to go to, what bars you're going to go to, researching for that presentation you're going to deliver, or what you're going to do catching up with your friends and family when you're on the flight. That's what you would be much better doing. So now let's talk about what pilots do when we are in turbulence, because we can't always avoid it. So, firstly, do what pilots do. We wear seatbelts from sitting in the flight deck, starting engines, pushing that aircraft back until after we land, and the aircraft has stopped moving and the park and brake is on. I suggest you do exactly the same. Whenever you're out of your seat, that's fine. You can stretch legs, you can go to the toilet if the seatbelt signs off. If you get caught out of your seat, just calmly make your way back to your seat. Put your seatbelt on. There's no rush. 99% of turbulence is just going to be a rumble and a bit uncomfortable, and you're not in any danger anyway, even out of your seat. But if the seatbelt sign comes on, always adhere to it. I'm just trying to make it more relative, that it isn't a panic. You don't have to run back to your seat. Just get back to your seat nice and calm. Hold on to headrests or armrests to steady yourself if it's a bit bumpy. Get in your seat, put your seatbelt on. Problem's over. People don't get hurt when they've got the seatbelt on, so you're going to be fine. So what do the pilots do then? We're in there with our seatbelt on, obviously. We've done everything we can to avoid it, but when we're going through, we are then going to be monitoring the aircraft. So it may feel down the back that you're dropping, or you think that you dropped hundreds of feet. Up there, the altimeter will be pretty steady. It'll move 5 or 10 feet, correct itself, and we'll sit bang on pretty much the altitude. Speed-wise, again, it might drop 5-10 miles an hour. It'll recover. That's why you hear the engines going up and down, and that can be quite noisy. So yeah, it's perfectly fine. We're quite chilled up the front. We're just monitoring it. The autopilot takes control and handles it perfectly well. So there's nothing really to worry about there. We'll be, as I say, monitoring everything, making sure the seatbelt sign's on. As soon as we get that okay from the cabin that everyone's securing in their seats, we're happy sat up the front. But okay, saying that, I do understand that a lot of you will still be nervous. And as I say, I've got a lot of experience. I get asked a lot of the same questions, and there's a huge amount of information. So I have put together something called the Turbulence Trio. So it's 3 things. It's an ebook. I think it's about 15,000 words, 15,000 word ebook called the Turbulence Flight Manual, and it explains all different types of turbulence, where you'll get it, what air traffic control are doing behind the scenes, the airline behind the scenes, the pilots, the crew, engineers, and everything else, the aircraft manufacturers, and it gives you some coping techniques when you're in turbulence as well. It also is an audiobook as well, so it's me narrating it. So it's this voice that you're now hopefully used to, talking calmly through all the different stages and the book. So you can listen to it when you're on board without having to read and make yourself airsick. Or if you're lying on a sun lounger and you're on holiday starting to get the nerves because you're going to fly home, you can pop your earbuds in or your headphones on and you can listen to it in the gym or on a sunbed. And then there's a workbook, which is about 50 different little tasks. And it's just to make sure that the information's gone in, you've understood it, and that's going to give you the best results. So I'll drop a link to that in the description. It's I think it's half price at the minute, which is £29. So about $36. So yeah, if you get that, you'll get all 3 of those for that, and you can use it for the rest of your life on every single flight you'll ever do. So I'll drop that in the description. Okay, as I said, you've got one job, and that is the seatbelt, really. Maybe it's 2. Get rid of a hot drink if it starts to get a little bit bumpy. But the best thing that you can do is when you get on board, fasten that seatbelt, have it loosely fastened all the time. When the seatbelt sign comes on, just tighten it up. And then when the seatbelt sign comes off, loosen it. Don't unlock it and take it off. Just loosen it. That way, if we do hit a little bit of unforecast turbulence, you are there in your seat and you're going to be restrained if the worst hits. And that'll keep you safe. The people who get injured are people who ignore the seatbelt signs. They carry on walking around. They spend an extra 10 minutes in the toilet, and we get hit with some moderate to severe turbulence, and that is going to throw you potentially a little bit in the air. If you're in a bus and the bus driver went over a speed bump at 30 miles an hour, and you're stood in the aisle, you're going to get thrown up and hit against a seat. No one really says much about that, but if it happens in the air, it makes front page news. That's the difference in the relative sort of injuries. They're bad. No one wants them. But, if a bus driver hammers a brake on because a child runs out and someone's in the aisle, a little old lady or man or someone's going to go flying down that aisle and hit some seats or the front of the bus, and they're going to get hurt. It's no different in a plane. In fact, you're probably going to have less than that because all it's going to do is rumble and throw you up and down a little bit, just slightly off the ground. If you hold yourself and restrain yourself, you'd be fine. If you're in your seat with a seatbelt, you are absolutely fine. So that is the top thing. I've already talked about what happens if you're caught out of your seat. Okay, so with that, I hope that you now understand exactly what causes turbulence with that lift diagram and what causes the rumbles, what to do when you're safe in your seat, how safe you actually are. And if you're still worried, you do have some resources, as I've dropped the links in the description too. Next, I'm going to break it down, as I say, into probably 3 videos. Next video, it'll be the one that'll take you from takeoff all the way up to the climb and break down that segment. And then I'll have another one when you're in the cruise about the different turbulence that might happen then and what causes it. And then a one from top of descent all the way down to landing, because there's a lot of different turbulence caused by other aeroplanes, clear air turbulence, mountain wave turbulence, convective turbulence, orographic turbulence from buildings and all sorts when you're coming into land. And it's nice to know what causes it, why it's happening, and that you're perfectly safe and it's normal. And the main things to stop your brain tricking you thinking that you're dropping and you're really in danger when you're not. That next video is the first start of 3, so take a look at that one next. With that, let's make your next flight a calm one. Fly happy, fly safe.